I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about UFC lightweight contender Michael Chandler breaks down and predicts the winner of Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush at UFC 288. UFC lightweight contender Michael Chandler has provided his assessment for the upcoming fight between former undisputed lightweight champion Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush. Having failed to regain his place on the 155-pound throne last October, Charles Oliveira lost via submission to Islam Makhachev at UFC 280. Charles Oliveira is set for the chance for an immediate rebound back into contention when he takes on Beneil Dariush. On May 6th, the number one ranked lightweight Charles Dubronx Oliveira is slated to meet the number fourth ranked lightweight contender Beneil Dariush at UFC 288. The Iranian-born American has surged towards the title picture courtesy of an 8-fight consecutive victories. His most victory was over Gamrot, and Gamrot just defeated Jalen Turner this weekend, I believe, right? I believe that was the fight where Gamrot won was a decision. While with Makhachev currently without a challenger for his second title defense, and given the constant call for Dariush form to be rewarded with a first championship opportunity, the May 6th matchup promises to bring with it incredibly high stakes. This was recently acknowledged by another lightweight contender occupying a spot inside the top 5. Chandler predicts a slugfest between Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira during an interview with BT Sport while in attendance at this past weekend's UFC 285 event here in Las Vegas. The number 5th ranked lightweight contender Michael Chandler gave his take on the crucial upcoming bout in his weight class. Despite both men grappling credentials, the former three-time Bellator champion, he was three-time champion, I didn't know that, champion Michael Chandler is expecting Oliveira and Dariush to cancel each other out on the ground, leading to an all-out war on the feet. If that comes to fruition, he's backing the Iranian-born 33-year-old to narrowly have his hand raised. How about that? Okay, let me see. That's just, man, two guys who, this is what Michael Chandler said, quote, two guys who are absolute studs. Obviously, Beneil has been on a run here. Charles needs to come back and continue to stake his claim as one of the most dominant lightweights that we've ever seen in recent history, Chandler said. Beneil Dariush has always been the guy on the outside of the bubble. Can he break into getting the title shot? From an actual prediction, that's a tough one. Can Charles stop the onslaught that is Beneil Dariush? And both guys are very well versed in grappling and wrestling exchanges. I think it turns into a knockdown, drag-out slugfest. Why would anyone be surprised that that's what Michael Chandler would predict? I think Beneil Dariush might actually have that edge in that one, but it's honestly way too close to call. The fans will be the beneficiaries of that one. Let me see. Is there anything else? Because I'm kind of getting bored with this this article already. Okay. So basically, Michael Chandler is going to be picking Beneil Dariush to defeat Charles Oliveira. We do have to mention that this is at UFC 288. So this is not a fight night. This fight will only be 3 rounds, right? I think we do have to put that out there. Also, this fight is happening in May. There's another lightweight contender fight that's happening, I believe, in 2 weeks at UFC 286, and that will be Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. I don't know if both of them ranked in the top 5, but I know Justin Gaethje's ranked in the top 5. So the winner of that can also have claim to being the number 1 contender. We also have to mention Michael Chandler will be fighting Conor McGregor later on this year. So the winner of that, you would imagine they're going to be saying they're the number 1 contender. So there's a lot going on in the UFC lightweight division. Islam Makhachev just defended the belt in February versus Alexander Volkanovski. So we have to see what Islam Makhachev does. I don't know when his return date. Will it be in September? Will it be sooner than September? We haven't really heard. And who would he fight? Is he going to have a rematch versus Alexander Volkanovski? What I heard from Dana White is that Dana White was saying that he wants Volkanovski to defend his title versus Yair Rodriguez, because Yair Rodriguez just became the interim featherweight title champion, interim title featherweight champion. Did Yair Rodriguez. So that may take one contender out for the UFC lightweight championship. I don't think we're going to get an immediate rematch with those two. So Volkanovski is most likely going to go back to the featherweight division to defend his title. That leaves, the winner of Chandler and Conor, right? Maybe that could be the number 1 contender, but we still have no idea when that fight happens. So that's going to take some time. Maybe UFC 286, the winner of Rafael Fiziev versus Justin Gaethje. Maybe that will be the number 1 contender. Maybe Dustin Poirier by default is just the automatic number 1 contender right now. Or maybe the winner of this fight in May 6th at UFC 288, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush may be the number 1 contender. So there's a lot in the air. We have to figure out who's going to be the number 1 contender for the UFC lightweight championship. If I was to give, I can't say I'm going to give a prediction. I can't really make a prediction, but I would say I personally am rooting for Charles Oliveira. I'm kind of a Charles Oliveira fanboy. I really like his style. I'm really impressed. We've seen him in the UFC for almost 20 years now, it seems like. He's had so many fights in the UFC, so it was so good to see him become champion. And when he became champion, he defended his belt. He defeated so many of the top contenders, right? So I really, really respect Charles Oliveira, his gangster. And, he knocked out Michael Chandler in the 2nd round, I believe, right? He stopped Michael Chandler. So I'm a big fan of Charles Oliveira. But let me know who are you picking in this fight. And also, if you have a little bit of time, who do you think is the number 1 contender? Do you think the number 1 contender right now is Dustin Poirier, Alexander Volkanovski, Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev, Charles Oliveira, Beneil? We can name literally 10 fighters right now could probably have claim to be the number 1 contender in the UFC lightweight division. So, there's a lot going on. Let me know who do you think is the number 1 contender. Personally, if I could, because there's so many fights right now, I wouldn't mind seeing Dustin Poirier. I know it sounds kind of crazy. It's just he's the only one out right now. He doesn't have any fights lined up. He's coming off of defeating Conor McGregor, So I like, now he's actually coming off of defeating Michael Chandler. I know, people are going to say. But, he had 2 very impressive wins over Conor McGregor, and then he just defeated Michael Chandler. So I think Dustin Poirier. I would love to see Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makhachev made next, because all the other contenders have matches coming up in the UFC lightweight. And then I would personally, if it's not Dustin Poirier, I would say if Fiziev defeats Justin Gaethje, I think Fiziev should be the number 1 contender. But if they want to go in a completely different direction, then the number 1 contender will be the winner of Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. That's basically. I personally do not think Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor, the winner of that should be the number one contender. I not that I have anything against that. I don't think the winner of that should be the number one contender. But I'm Jason, UFC, and today we had a story about UFC lightweight contender Michael Chandler predicts Beneil Dariush to defeat Charles Oliveira at UFC 288. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.